It was a busy second day of the new league year. Plenty of movement in the wide receiver market, defensive linemen. We have trades, defensive backs, Devin White. We got to get to all of it today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every single day. We appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Happy National Summer Bold Bets Payoff Day to you here on the show, Joe.
I just won a bet, and that bet being that you would incorporate that into the first thing you said in this podcast. Yeah. So
you know what's fired up about, because I took the screenshot from the spreadsheet last night when that news came through at like 11 o'clock and was like, we got another one on the board. But it's a collective win. It's not just a me win, because like between you and I now, I think out of a possible 64 bold bets, right? Each one of us had a bold bet for all 32 teams. Mm-hmm. I think we had like 21 that hit. That's like a third of our bets.
Not bad.
For bold bets.
Of course, referring to Mr. Keenan Allen being traded to the Chicago Bears. Kyle Crabbs, I was up late last night. Not usually up late ever, but I was up late last night. And so I was doing some work and wanted to have some background noise. And I made the choice. I said, you know what? Let me hear what the guys on Locked On Chargers have to say about this Keenan Allen trade.
Okay.
Boy, are they pissed. I mean, boy, are they mad. They were like, Keenan Allen should retire a Charger. We should have been talking about extension. Who's Justin Herbert going to throw the ball to? Keenan Allen, like one of the all-time great Chargers.
Yeah. Had an outstanding season last year, too.
Yeah.
And missed 4 games.
Like 1,200 yards, and so did Herbert. Herbert wasn't super available either.
Yeah.
First year of a new offense with Keenan Allen.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I think if you looked at their resources, we did this when we did their breakdown. And we talked about looking at who they had as the big cap commitments on the roster. Who are the players that tangibly held some trade value? And I think we came back with Khalil Mack and Keenan Allen. And when we did our proposals, you talked about extending Keenan Allen, and I think we both were receptive to shopping Khalil Mack to potentially cash out high. They end up in reality restructuring both Bosa and Mack, and they saved some cash, but they also opened up a lot of cap space to restructure those 2 contracts. And Keenan Allen's the one that has tangible trade value and gets moved. So going to Chicago, it's a nice bump. If I remove the emotion and the attachment, and I've had to do this week myself with players who are outgoing players. I think if you look at the long-term outlook of the Chargers and what their cap health was and the style of play that this team is going to be, there's some silver linings here that you made this painful transition now, but it doesn't take away the hurt of a decade of Keenan Allen being an absolute butt kicker for the Chargers.
Yeah, and just awesome in every way. Like we got some glimpses into him through different like NFL media and stuff, and like he's a dude, man. He blocks, he's a locker room guy, he's everything you can want in a pro. So a couple things here for the Chargers. Obviously, Quentin Johnston, the time is now, right? Like you better get it going.
Better be.
Also, I'm not talking about offensive tackles at 5 anymore for the Chargers. I think you get quarterbacks with the first 3 picks, and then I think you get wide receivers to the next 2 picks.
The question is which wide receiver?
Probably Odunze. And I know
it seems like that's the momentum, right? Which whoever gets wide receiver 3 and it's Malik Neighbors is going to be absolutely tickled pink that they're getting Malik Neighbors.
Well, we've been thinking probably the Giants, right? You probably get Maybe so. I mean, I think they're kind of in on their quarterback deal. I don't know, man. I don't think they're picking a quarterback. I don't think they are. But now, so the other side of this is the Chicago Bears now have Keenan Allen. So I'm not thinking about receiver for them at number 9, right?
That feels like a tackle spot now to me. Get that left tackle spot figured out.
Options for sure. So you're figuring Caleb Williams. And so what's kind of interesting about Chicago is very much not the thing that I talk about every single year. Don't put a developing quarterback around developing weapons. This dude's stepping into DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And, of course, they signed DeAndre Swift. They have a paid tight end in Cole Kmet. Like, all right, buddy, you're not coming in there with a bunch of rookies, dude. You got some receivers here.
This is the case study of get the quarterback last. And granted, they tried to get the quarterback first and put the pieces around him, but courtesy of other team-building maneuvers, they land themselves into the first overall pick in a class that has 3 viable top of the first-round quarterbacks. And I think with the economics of the decision, I think the league's kind of telling you what they feel about Justin Fields based on what it seems like this market or lack thereof is for Justin Fields, which is pretty alarming.
Yep.
I would want to reset as well and bring in a fresh 4-year rookie contract with all of these established players and a chance for him to really, whoever their pick is, presumably Caleb Williams, thrive early on in the process. And I think that's the wise decision for the Bears to make.
Hollywood Brown, a Kansas City Chief. And this is one of those moves that if Hollywood Brown signed with the Patriots or if Hollywood Brown signed with the Panthers, you're like, okay, I don't care. But of course he goes to the Chiefs. And so now it's like, oh man, you feel like everything that Hollywood Brown promises to be, he has a chance to be that. And giving Patrick Mahomes a legitimate vertical threat if he can stay healthy.
You think so?
That's how I feel about it. You could speak for yourself.
Teams play Kansas City so conservatively on the back end. And Pat's average touchdown pass this year, we've seen the memes, right? And like the stats, it's like an average distance of touchdown pass of like 4.5 yards this year. Like,
right?
Because teams chose to play them a certain way. And I've seen enough of teams deciding we're not going to let you do that part of the passing game for me to feel like I think Hollywood Brown's going to have to find some other ways other than just being the Deshaun Jackson-esque type vertical receiver for Kansas City. I think it's a great ad. I don't think there's no question. They needed more speed, but I think it's less about the vertical element and more about the spacing element for the other players that I think is where Hollywood Brown brings the best value.
Right, because his vertical push opens up everything for Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce and all.
I mean, and all that.
Mahomes quick trigger quarterback last year in a lot of instances, you know. So I think it helps with all of that. So Hollywood Brown of the Chiefs, the Bills sign Curtis Samuel, 3 years, $24 million. Is
that what the base value of the deal? I saw the max value, I think, was 3 for 30, right?
3 for 30 is the max. The base is 3 for 24 with 15 guaranteed.
It feels good. Good value.
It's solid. I was nervous that he comes with a 10, 11, 12 price tag, which is, I think that's where some of the projections were with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's explosive, yards after catch, right? That's the kind of stuff that the Bills offense has kind of been lacking, quick separation. I think for the Bills, the big thing here is it has to work. You're tight on cap. And so like this was probably your biggest outside addition that you're going to make.
Yeah.
And you got to get returns on it. So the onus comes back on Joe Brady to figure this out. Joe Brady had Curtis Samuel in Carolina, had 1,000 yards that season in 2020. But this one has to land for the Bills.
So I guess how does Curtis Samuel complement or create log jams for the other pass catchers? Because I think about Curtis Samuel and predominantly has been a slot guy.
52% slot, yeah.
52% slot guy. So you think about Kincaid as a middle of the field receiver and how does he complement that? And then how does that prevent a log jam with
Khalil Shakir?
Khalil Shakir, thank you,
Yeah.
Boise State wide receiver who
Yeah.
had a nice season last year, and some Bills fans I know were questioning is he the wide receiver too?
Yeah.
Do we need somebody else as the wide receiver too? So, what are your thoughts on that?
If you listen to Locked On Bills, and I get into the part of
told me to shut up and listen to the show.
No. I just got to plug the pod, baby. You know, I got to do my thing here. When I got into the things that I didn't like, the first thing that I said was, I hope this doesn't mean anything for Khalil Shakir, because that dude, Khalil Shakir led the Bills in receiving like the last 11 weeks of the season. And just love the emerging talent that he has. And so I'm hopeful that this adds to the offense and doesn't take away from Khalil Shakir. I think the good thing about both of those guys is, for while I think you kind of think of them as slot players, they have been a lot more interchangeable on the outside versus the inside. So I think you play them both. I mean, I think this is your 11 personnel. It's Samuel, Diggs, and Shakir.
Very good.
All right, tons more to get to. The defensive tackle market. We had some quarterback trades, some defensive playmakers on the move. We're going to get to all of it, so be sure to stick with us. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game in the tournament. Whether you're betting on the big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets.
All right, Joseph. So,
pew, 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 pew.
Breaking news?
No, man. I'm just explosives, baby. Jonathan Gannon, Rondale Moore. Pew,
we didn't touch on Rondale Moore.
I had to get it in real quick. Come on, man. This is interesting because of that clip. That's why it's interesting.
It's not a very gracefully aged.
No.
What does Arizona have going on at wide receiver now?
Marvin Harrison Jr., who is the number 4.
Right. It'll be Greg Dortch. Right.
Yeah. But, Michael Wilson, or who's the guy they got?
Michael Wilson.
Yeah, was that who the young player?
They got both of them. They got Higgins too. They claimed him off waivers from Miami.
Right, but I think Wilson had a little bit of production last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I mean, they got 2 first-round picks. Like double down, baby.
Anytime you can talk to me about explosive plays and shots down the field, and you're selling me on Michael Wilson and you're selling me on Greg Dortch, I'm picking up what you're putting down, baby.
Listen.
They got work to do. We'll see. It's a good wide receiver class. They may come away with 2, and they got a lot of early picks. So I would probably advocate for 2.
Dude, I mistakenly in our mock draft a couple weeks ago, I completely forgot that the Cardinals had that pick, and they picked Marvin Harrison Jr. I wound up picking Brian Thomas Jr. for them in addition to Marvin Harrison.
I don't think I would hate it. I'm dead serious. I don't think I would hate it.
Not a terrible idea. Desmond Ritter goes to Arizona. Okay, all right.
Whoop-de-doo.
I'm surprised that they got Rondale Moore for him. So
I'm not. I think both of those were sunk costs within their
respective. I agree. But Mac Jones goes for a 6.
I don't think I'd value Rondale Moore for much more than a 7.
Ooh, so all right, Falcons fans, close your ears. He's not. Mr. Kyle Crabbs not really in on.
No, man. Listen, Atlanta, with all the skill players that they had, they also signed Darnell Mooney.
Yeah,
Rondale Moore's like wide receiver 4.5 there. Y'all gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. And I love
that's a heck of a better spot than they were in.
Right,
Rondale Moore might have been there 2 last year.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. We also had you mentioned the big acquisition for Buffalo this offseason was Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
And for about 30 seconds, it seemed as though it was Arik Armstead.
Put him on the list. Antonio Brown.
Bills legend Arik Armstead.
JJ Watt, Zach Ertz, just part of the Wall of Fame.
What about the running back from Washington?
Dree Archer. Oh, JD McKissick. Yeah,
JD McKissick was a 30-second Bills legend.
Yeah. We lead the league.
What happened there? We just got the team wrong in the report.
Rossini, yeah, she flubbed it. It was within like 10 seconds. I'm sitting there on TweetDeck waiting for moves all day. It's like Rappaport comes in with the graphic and Arik Armstead going to the Jaguars. I'm like, all right. And then Rossini comes in, and dude, every Bills beat reporter ran with it immediately. So for like about a minute, he had a source off. Rossini deletes the tweet. Arik Armstead goes to the Jaguars. Trent Baalke drafted him, right?
Did he? That sounds right.
I'm pretty sure.
That sounds right.
Heck of a pickup for Jacksonville, assuming the health, right? I mean, he turns 31 this year. He's missed 13 games over the last 2 seasons with this most recently, the torn meniscus. He had surgery on that. He's going to miss most of the offseason. So a little bit of risk here, but I mean, Armstead healthy.
I know some people were surprised by like the dollar amount that he got.
Really?
Like
was it 3 years?
It's 3 for 51 total.
Yeah. What's that per?
17 per?
I had it at 15. I thought to myself when the Bills were in on this, I thought, it's probably going to be at least 15. So it's right where I thought it would be.
I know when Dolphins fans were asking me, because obviously Miami has interior defensive line needs, they asked, is this a possibility? I said, honestly, I would guess it's a $20 million a year.
Oh, contract. Okay. You had it even higher. Wow. Okay.
I try to overshoot because you just never know.
Talk the fans down.
Who's right. You never want to be that guy or that girl, right? That does your projection, your free agent thing. It's that guy on TikTok. You see that guy on TikTok that's like, I'm going to fix the Chargers and I'm going to trade Mike Williams and save $32 million. Like he doesn't even know what dead cap is.
I've not seen this. TikTok's over though, right? And we're getting this out of here. It's illegal or whatever.
But you don't want to be like, let's sign Curtis Samuel for $6 million a season. And then he signs for up to 10, right?
Yeah.
It's a bad example because I think the pure value of that contract was 6, 7.
You're talking about Curtis Samuel?
8, yes.
8. It's 8, yeah.
8. So you never want to lowball it. So I always try to shoot a little higher, just knowing that the market might get crazy and our guy might get offered $27.5 million as a defensive tackle. You know, you just never know when that's going to happen.
Jaguars needed a guy on the interior that can give them some juice. They had some run stuffers there, but I mean, you get some rush packages with Armstead, Walker, Allen. So that's a nice little trio you could throw at the pocket there.
Probably not done. I would expect they're not done with the line.
With the D line?
Another edge rusher type.
And another edge, yeah. A third edge I think they need. But Jacksonville's been busy. Very busy.
They have not shied away.
No.
And they did not take long to find the pivot off of the Calvin Ridley money that they had earmarked. Because it went to Armstead, for sure.
100%. Which I honestly think I like Calvin Ridley a ton, but
with the breadth of depth pass catchers that they have, which I know we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
It's probably a better evenly spread distribution of funds.
And it's less.
And it's less money. Yeah,
it's less money.
But that wasn't the only interior defensive line movement that we had. DJ Reader signing a 2-year deal worth up to 27. I think 27.5. I think was the max value of that contract with the Detroit Lions.
Brother,
that team's going to be a problem.
they said 49ers, you want to run the ball? Okay, cool.
Man.
They said Packers, you want to run the ball? Cool. You want to say Bears, you want to run the ball? Cool. We got answers.
DJ's a monster, man. He's an absolute monster.
Total stud.
This will be his age 30 season. He's coming off of an injury. He missed a couple of games at the end of the season. And then he missed 7 games in 2022. He only played 10 games. But if you can get him right, if you can get him on the field, him and Ali McNeil as a combo on the interior for your early down packages, because DJ can rush the passer a little bit. Ali McNeil can rush the passer a little bit. You also have one of the younger, more dominant edge rushers in the league right now in Aiden Hutchinson from a motor and disruption perspective. And I've watched a lot of Detroit over the past couple of weeks getting ready for free agency. And every time I watch him, he pops more and more. So you got a guy like that that'll really help too. It's an outstanding ad for Detroit.
At a minimum, you have guys that can really set picks and collapse the pocket and create those soft areas for guys like Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston. And they got other rush players as well that can take advantage of those gaps. So I couldn't like this deal even more. Real quick, the Panthers get DJ Wanham, much needed edge help there. The Browns get interior pass rush with Quentin Jefferson's coming off a good season. And those are kind of the big movers and shakers when it comes to the defensive line. But we saw some defensive playmakers on the move. Devin White, Kendall Fuller. We're going to get to that Seahawks trading for Sam Howell. Stick with us. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is a registered broker-dealer.
So, few milli short of 100 for Devin White. Signs a 1-year deal in Philadelphia for up to $7.5 million. As the Eagles get their they've been looking for, feels like they've been looking for a linebacker hard this entire offseason thus far.
Well, I got to ask you questions about this.
Okay.
Because I know you got into the weeds with Fangio last year. How are you? What do you feel about this fit in that defense? Because when I think Devin White, I think blitzing, right? Like if I want to get the most out of Devin White, I'm asking him to attack the pocket. I'm not asking him to process and play the run. And be downhill consistently. I'm not asking him to be a consistent coverage player. I want him blitzing. It doesn't really feel like Fangio to me. How does Fangio get the most out of Devin White?
It's a good question because Miami had a 3rd-round pick on the roster last year, Channing Tindall, whose MO at the University of Georgia was blitzing, and that was his value on passing downs. And that dude did not sniff the field one bit. And they had a ton of lapses between your passing strength safety and your nickel player and that inside linebacker to the side of the passing strength. Those guys all got to be on the same page all the time because you got to leverage and pass off and communicate and understand what the route combinations are dictating for who you're carrying and how you're switching. And it was really complex. And you could tell Miami struggled with it a lot. Teams that understand how to attack split field coverages and zone match really got after their rules. I think about Buffalo the first time they played them, and then Baltimore week 17. The two teams that I think put 50 burgers on Miami. Buffalo scored 50, 40, right? 48? 40, yeah. Excuse me.
No, 79 or whatever the heck that was. 70, whatever.
They turned down the chance for 73 for good karma, and they didn't get any karma at the end of the year anyway.
Never pursue the karma, right?
It was an issue all year. So for Devin White, I have the exact same concern. And it's like, okay, where they have Nakobe Dean, who I think has the football IQ to do fairly well in this. I know he hasn't made the splash yet as an NFL player, as another third round, right? 3rd round draft pick. Slid a little bit for the chest injury he had.
Yeah.
Big mystery. And a lot of big dollars for a player who I don't think the skill set he's shown in Tampa really aligns with the necessities of running that defense at a high level.
We have a trade in the NFL. This is a very interesting trade between the Vikings and the Texans. The Vikings get pick 23 and 232. Houston gets 42. Yeah, Houston gets 42, 188, and a 2025 second rounder. So Houston preemptively traded out of the first round with pick 23. Minnesota wants to come up and get it. Yeah, have you ever? This is
all right.
Really,
so Minnesota got where?
Minnesota gets 23 and 232.
They're
coming up from 42. They traded up from 42 to 23, and they gave up a 2025 second round pick and number 188. This is very much the Bills when they were moving up for Josh Allen.
Yep, they're going to come up for a quarterback is what's going to happen.
So now they have – what was their other pick? 12
11.
or 11. So now they have 11 and 23.
Is it 11
so,
or is it 12?
Something like that. So they are going to try to package 23 and whatever that pick is to get to 4, 5, 6.
3 or 4.
Yeah. Ooh. So that means either New England's trading out of a quarterback.
They got Jacoby Brissett.
Right. God, that would definitely stop me too. Or the Cardinals are trading away from Marvin Harrison Jr.
Did the Chargers know this when they traded Keenan Allen? No, we might get Marvin Harrison at 5. How galaxy brain do you want to get? My knee-jerk reaction, right? My knee-jerk reaction from Houston's side of this is they've been very aggressive in free agency. They've addressed a lot of their needs. Now, the debate on whether they're parallel moves or step downs or marginal step ups, all that's fine. The thing that it tells me for Houston is they don't have a lot of first-round picks on their draft board, right? We're going through a draft process. We really don't love the value in the first round. The players that we expect would be first-round caliber players for us that we would want to stick and pick to get appropriate value for our pick. Probably a pretty short list. That's how you move out in lieu of an extra 2, right? They go down 22 spots.
23 to 42. Spots? Yeah. So
19 spots. Not a math guy, but I can do that math. 19 spots. Because 23 to 43 would be 20 spots, and it's with the 42.
Good
so
God help us. Draft dudes do math. Never good. Yeah.
Very interesting. But the Minnesota coming for J.J. McCarthy, baby.
Yeah. Well, and they want to make sure the Raiders aren't going to be a problem for them. They want to make sure the Broncos aren't going to be part of them. The winner here might be Bo Nix, who might wind up getting drafted by like Denver with that pick.
No.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if you get more than 4.
So Devin White's a weird player for the Eagles. Kendall, this is a big one. Kendall Fuller goes to the Miami Dolphins. I think we finished the show on Wednesday.
Gassing up Kendall Fuller?
Well, I was sitting there saying, like, what are we expecting next? And, of course, I'm like, someone should sign Kendall Fuller. He's a really good cornerback. And then, the one team I would hope that didn't sign Kendall Fuller signed him. So he's Miami Dolphin. Good value deal, man.
You too. I texted you. I said, you got to stop liking players.
Right, because the Dolphins always get them. So that's cool. Floor's yours, Kendall Fuller, Miami Dolphin.
Yeah, so listeners will get a treat here. I have a sick toddler at home, so I didn't do my Kendall Fuller podcast yet. So I'm going to record that next. So I've got my notes all prepped, my talking points.
Oh,
but if you listen to
break 30 minutes down to like 1 minute for us here.
Right, right. It's an economic friendly parallel move at worst. When you consider Xavier Howard's going into his age 31 season, Kendall Fuller's going into his age 29 season. He's 2 years younger. It's a 2-year deal. Fuller signs for 16 and change, max value of contract. Xavier Howard was going to be on your books this year for $25.9 million cap hit.
I'd rather have Fuller than Howard.
I had them graded in the same tier as players. And even when you account for the void years, and even if you just don't do any funny money with the cap and say he's on the books for $8 million this year, you're still saving $10 million in cap space for a parallel player, for a player who's 2 years younger and has more versatility.
I'll say it. I'd rather have Fuller than Howard. So you got a better player, in my opinion, right now at this point,
at this stage of their careers.
Yeah. I'm not taking anything away from vintage Xavier Howard. I know all about it. All right. I've seen him intercept 1 billion passes.
You know what was the most surprising thing? Because I've done all the splits on like their snaps and their yards per target and their efficiencies and all this stuff. The most eye-opening number was the penalties.
What are let's hear it.
Okay, so Kendall Fuller last 5 years in penalties called against him. 2, 3, 1, 4, 3.
Solid.
Xavier Howard, 7, 7, 6, 8, 5.
Oh, he's the Laramie Tunsil of corners.
And X has 2 penalties this year that were declined, 1 penalty last year that was declined, 3 penalties the previous year that was declined, 2 penalties the year before that were declined. He's had at least 8 penalties called against him every year the last 5 years. It's just a question whether or not they've been accepted.
He's got to play that trail technique and pick off those underthrown passes. And,
right. That's you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Right. It's been Xavier Howard for his whole life. Right.
But it's worked out for him pretty well. But
hell yeah, it has.
There's been the last 2 years, some painful penalties amongst the 14 that's been called against him that have been hurtful for resetting of downs for that Dolphins defense, for sure. In the last 2 years, Fuller's been penalized 5 times. So almost less than half frequently he's been penalized. So
Sam Howell traded. He goes to Seattle.
I wish I cared.
Well,
my expectations for Sam Howell are so low. He did some nice things, but it was just like, I don't know how to quantify what that offense was like.
I don't disagree with you. I feel like the infrastructure is about 1 billion times better in Seattle with the receiver talent, with the offensive line talent. Well, I know they got some things to figure out with that, but I think it's a better situation for him. And it feels like there was some momentum, at least yesterday, that people were saying, well, this is legitimate competition. At least you have a young quarterback in the mix that has some experience that's at least interesting to back up Geno Smith, who's kind of streaky.
That's going to do it. Till next time. Locked On NFL Scouting, Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed today's discussion. Make it a great rest of your day. Make it a great weekend. We'll see what NFL news comes our way. And Joe, we're getting ready to switch gears into some draft stuff. There you go. Yeah, it's coming. So I hope you guys, if you've been long-time listeners to the pod, move your hand back further into the frame more.
Gosh, just finished. I'm sorry.
If you've been long-time listeners of the show, you are undoubtedly looking forward to us deep diving the draft because that is where our roots are, and we're excited to get back to it for the next 2 months as well. So, Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino, make it a great rest of your day. We're out of here.